That Flint Water Crisis has been going on for some time, and it just seems to continue and continue and continue. There were some developments today and over the last 24 hours or so with that, but of course the situation has been going on for some time, and so I thought we might tap into our Townsquare Media resources and catch up with one of our Townsquare colleagues, Jason Cooper, who is the news director at 1470 WFNT Radio in Flint. And in addition to following the story, he also hosts a daily radio show there. And this has been, I'm sure, one of the topics that has been front and center for a long time. And he joins us on the line this morning from Flint. Good morning, Jason.
Good morning, Richard. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for the time today. We appreciate that. We know you're busy putting things together over there, so we appreciate the time you're giving us as well.
No problem. Yeah, it's been crazy here the last 10 weeks or so and the past couple of years.
I'll bet. So in the last 24 hours or so, we've learned that the governor has asked for the feds to consider this an emergency by their standards, and that would be helpful, we would presume, right?
Yes, anything would be helpful right now, Richard, and we've seen it with the governor before. There has been flooding in this area the past couple of years, and he hasn't hesitated to ask for the federal government's help for those that are in need, and now, obviously, there are a lot in need due to another crisis here in Flint, the water crisis.
Mm-hmm. Right. So there's also been some indication, I saw it today from the Attorney General's office, that the Michigan Attorney General is going to investigate this now, too.
Yes, I saw the same thing. Attorney General Bill Schuette said he will investigate what happened in the Flint water crisis and if any laws were broken, and he said he would do it honestly and without favor to anybody as well. Of course, Attorney General and Governor Snyder campaigned together for their re-election and their first elections as well. So, but he said, hey, he'll do it honest and fairly.
All right, so let's go back to the beginning of this now. The idea was because Flint needed to save money, there would be an attempt to try and do that by changing the source of the tap water in Flint, right?
Yes, Flint has been a long-time customer from the city of Detroit, in fact, over 40 years. And the cost to transport the water to Flint was extremely high, and the rates kept getting hiked, and Flint at the time was underneath a financial emergency as designated by the state, and they were looking at alternative water sources, and one of those is under construction right now. It's called the Carignan Water Authority. It will bring water to Genesee County as well as some other counties from Lake Huron. So they looked at that. They wanted to be in control of their own destiny. And as someone who talked about the decision at the time to switch from the Carignan Water Authority from the city of Detroit, there was a lot that went into that as well. But it did happen at the time that the city was underneath control of a emergency manager.
Mm-hmm. And we will talk about what came next and where we stand today with all of this when we come back in just a minute on WBCK. WBCK Friday, we're chatting with Jason Cooper, news director at WFNT Flint, one of our Townsquare Media colleagues. He's been watching and following the Flint water crisis for all these months. So the water source changed, and there were problems with that. In fact, you know, when this story started gaining traction, Jason, we talked with our Battle Creek water officials, and you know, the question, of course, from our end was, could this happen here? And he said exactly what we've been hearing. That is, it could happen anywhere with aging infrastructure. That's the problem, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. The city of Detroit, actually, after Flint announced the decision to connect with this new water source, the Carignan Water Authority, or KWA, cut the city of Flint off at the end of their contract. The city of Flint, as well as Genesee County and some others, have been trying to negotiate a short-term deal while the KW pipeline was under construction. Unfortunately, the city of Detroit, about to go under another financial emergency of its own and bankruptcy, lost its largest customer with the city of Flint's decision to hook onto the KWA. So at that point, they were between a rock and a hard place and ended up switching to the Flint River for the short term, which was expected to be just a little over 2 years. And unfortunately, as we've learned over the past couple of years, river water, a much harder water to treat than lake water. And it's been a lot of the problems, but also the aging infrastructure. And as you said, it's something that is a problem or is going to be a problem everywhere.
Right.
The infrastructure in Flint was built for a much larger city. It dates back to the early 1900s. And unfortunately, you've got stagnant water in some of the pipes and lead pipes, and in some cases wood pipes as well.
Oh,
so,
my.
Yeah, it's a aging infrastructure, and we've seen that here, and we're going to see it in other cities moving forward.
So if somebody in Flint turns their tap water on today at 8:18 on Friday, are they getting clean water?
Well, that's a good question, Richard. You know, if they've got a filter on their faucet, that's certainly going to help. And right now, the Michigan State Police, as well as the Michigan National Guard, are going door to door in Flint to assist people with water filters and make sure that they're hooked up properly. When it leaves the treatment facility, the water is indeed clean and up to all the requirements at the state government and at the federal government. The problem was when they switched to the Flint River, they weren't putting phosphates in the water, which caused lead to leach into the water. There's a coating that phosphates add to the pipes on the inside of the pipes that prevents lead from seeping into the water.
Sure.
And they've since started adding phosphates to the water a couple of months ago, but there's still problems, Richard.
So to complicate matters then, somebody in their home this morning can turn the tap water on in Flint, and it looks clean, but it's not, or it may not be.
It may not be, is what I'd like to say, yes.
That's interesting because, you know, we've been given the impression, those of us who maybe have been checking in and out of the details on this story, that, you know, you turn your tap water on in the bathtub and it fills with rusty-colored water, and that may not be the case.
Yeah, the rusty-colored water, I have an explanation for. Again, the infrastructure built for a much larger city, and the water sitting in the pipes waiting for someone to turn on their faucet causes a discoloration. So I do have an explanation for that. But, there's still problems that need to be solved here.
All right, we're talking with Jason Cooper, one of our Townsquare Media colleagues at WFNT in Flint. He's been following the Flint water situation. We're back in a moment on WBCK with more. WBCK, we're talking about the Flint water crisis from the perspective of someone who's been watching this situation. Jason Cooper with WFNT Flint, one of our Townsquare Media colleagues. So we were just saying that, and you've made the point a couple times now, that Flint is not as big a city as it used to be. And so some of the public water access, some of the public water just sits until the demand for it comes its way, which means it just doesn't flow like it used to. Talk about Flint for a second. I mean, we've heard some of the stories going way back about difficult times in Flint. Have there been any signs of a turnaround?
You know, Richard, I'm very optimistic about this city and have grown to love it in my time here. And you're talking to someone who grew up in southeastern Michigan and used to go to Detroit regularly as a child with his parents. And when I first started working here in Flint, everybody said, you know, you're working in Flint? What? And I've since come to love it and love the people here. And I'm cautiously optimistic about the city, and I think with downtown and some of the outlying areas of downtown Flint, the north side, I'm excited for where things are headed here, and hopefully this will be resolved soon so we can concentrate on the future.
And so the water supply that's been affected here, is that Flint City proper only, or does this extend into some of the environs?
Well, it is mostly Flint City proper.
Okay.
There are some townships that also get their water from the city of Flint, but other areas get their water within Genesee County from the county, which was able to negotiate a short-term deal with the city of Detroit to continue getting its water from them. They're in the process, Genesee County's in the process of building its own water treatment facility plan to treat the KWA water when it comes online. But the city of Flint will actually be the first customer to receive that KWA water when it's completed, and that's expected to be in June of this year.
Mm-hmm. And does that process bypass all of the aging infrastructure?
It doesn't, Richard, and the KWA water, it's not going to solve all the problems with the aging infrastructure. Those problems are still going to exist, and the fix isn't going to happen overnight. You've got the governor calling on FEMA and the federal government to help with this. It's going to take some time. It took some time to get to this place. It's going to take some time to get out of this place.
Mm-hmm. So for the immediate need now, you said National Guard and other authorities going door to door. When they do that, what are they doing? They're saying, do you need a filter? Do you need water? What are they doing?
Yes, they are doing both, actually. The outpouring of support that Flint has received has been tremendous. And obviously, this is a story that's made national news now.
Right.
And even internationally as well. Ourselves here at Townsquare Media, we organized a water drive, and one day we were able to fill up almost 600,000 bottles of water into 3 or 4 semi-trucks. And people have just been donating water. You've got filters that are being provided from the state, and they're going door to door asking what people need and making sure that they have filters on their faucets to better help with the problems that we're experiencing here in Flint.
Are people, when they have that, confident their water is clean?
Well, the filters will fix a lot of the issues. And, as someone who's talked to manufacturers of filters and stuff like that, I think it gives them a better sense of security, but there are some still out there that will believe or are believing that the filters aren't solving all the issues, and those people are using the bottled water, the jugs of water, and such.
Mm-hmm. Well, you can understand how they might think that.
Yeah.
They want to take the chance.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I completely understand it, especially new moms and others that might have to do formula for their kids, and they don't want to risk water from the tap versus bottled water as well.
Mm-hmm. So in the interim now, as those authorities make sure folks have filters and access to clean water, is it of a certain perspective that we're okay now getting water where it needs to go?
I believe so. A lot has happened over the past 10 weeks or so. From when the governor first said he was alerted of the problem, we've seen the switch back to Detroit water for the short term. The state kicked in money for that. The city of Flint kicked in money for that. And then we have a foundation here, the Mott Foundation, that kicked in funds for that. So people feel better going back to Detroit water. They've been calling for that for some time. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done. We brought up the infrastructure a couple of times. That needs to be fixed. That needs to be repaired. And but I think we're on the tail end of this problem, and I feel that everything that is being done is going to help. But as I said earlier, it's not a fix that can happen overnight.
Well,
and
sure.
I think people need to know that.
That infrastructure fix can't start tomorrow.
No, A lot of people wish it would, but it's not going to happen overnight.
Is there a sense that that will happen, that access to funding for that would be faster now?
I think so. We've heard a lot of terms and money being thrown out there, $50 million from a local state senator. We've heard the mayor of Flint saying that the cost could be up in the billions of dollars. I read something that was interesting the other day, that the state of Michigan has a budget surplus of almost $600 million. There's a sense that some of that might be coming to Flint to help alleviate some of the issues here, whether it be the infrastructure or some of the other problems here in Flint. And that's a good thing, because that would come quickly.
I would imagine the legislative delegation will be lobbying for that.
Yes, and they've done a great job so far. Some of our state senators and state representatives in getting in front of the governor. Of course, we have the state Senate minority leader here, Jim Ananick, and he's been a great advocate for all the issues here.
Well, we appreciate the time you've given us to talk about this, and who knows, we may check in with you in the future and get an update.
Richard, thank you for having me. I'd be happy to talk anytime you'd like to.
All right. Thanks very much. Jason Cooper with Townsquare Media, WFNT in Flint. Has been following the Flint water problem.